Hello everyone, with today's Langrisser update we got our third season, I think, of Challenges Arena, and I figured I'll probably make a quick video for team building guide, like what sample teams you can run. And first off, we're gonna look through the roster that we have here and figure out what we can run. In terms of factions, you can run Meteor, Mythical, Glory, Princess, and Giles, kind of, and that's about it. You can run Juggler, but there's actually barely any Origin units here. Like you can just take a look here. Yeah, there's 3 Origins units, so you can't really run that. So those are the factions we can run. And before we go into what you can run for each faction, let's just go through what tanks and healers we have first. So for tanks we have Juggler, Amelia, Ledin, Grenier, and a 0.5 tank in CC White because she can summon the Lancer tank. And you can kind of count Meladia, you can turn one of your DPS into a tank, but I wouldn't really call that a legit tank. So out of these options, they're all kind of okay, but I think if you want to run a stable tank push team, you're probably better off sticking to either Mythical with Juggler or Glory with Grenier and Ledin. Because even though Amelia's okay, I think, but in terms of tank push, I don't think Princess is that great of an option as a pure tank push team. You can fit her into a kind of hybrid lineup if you want, but she can only get buffed by Princess here. Yeah, there's no Empire buffer in this lineup, so she can only get faction buff from Princess team. Whereas the rest of the tanks, the Glory tanks can bring their own faction buff, and Juggler can be buffed either himself, but not really recommended, or by Gizerov and Hobo, which both fit much better into a kind of tank push team. So let's move on to our healer options. Healer options would be these guys. I think that should be it. 6 healers. Imelda's not really a main healer. Her main purpose is probably just her 3C, the whip. And she's not really a consistent healer outside of that. It's more an aggro option for rush teams. CC White still doesn't have her exclusive. She's coming out in like 2 weeks, I think. So she's a bit slower in terms of what she can do. But her main utility is being able to summon the Lancer tank. And other than that, she has an act again, but it takes quite a while before she can actually use it. It takes 5 coins. And she only gets 2 coins a turn. Other than that, her other utility options would be Inspire. She give +1 mobility to her whole team. But this thing also takes 3 coins, so yeah, she's gonna be a bit slower in terms of her utility options. For Weiler, most older players would be familiar with him. It's 3C. It's a pretty heavy counter to single target lineups. It's a 3 turns miracle and a buff that will heal them before entering battle. And he has a bunch of utility options like tactical retreat, regroup, and even long range strengthen, if you consider that. So he's okay, he brings a lot of utility to the table, but he's not terrific against AoE, and he's much better against single target. Melania, the most important thing she brings to the table is, I think, her exclusive, which is prevents heal reversal effects, which will mostly be relevant for Brenda teams, I think. And the other thing she brings to the table is Gospel. If you plan to play Yulia, I think Gospel is quite important to have. So she does bring that. Other than that, she's okay at healing. But her biggest utility is probably Gospel and the command that prevents heal reversal. Other than that, she's just kind of a normal healer. So next we have Almeida. Almeida, personally, I see her more of an AoE unit rather than a healer, pure healer. Like, she does heal, but I think she's better if you fit her into an AoE team as a hybrid DPS healer. And last we have Iris, which her main job is teleport. She does okay against both AoE and single target. She brings a lot of healing and decent amount of dispels. And one thing I wanted to point out about the healer roster this round is that none of them have Night Bloom actually. Or left hand Red Moon or Goel for some of the holy healers. Yeah, none of them have Night Bloom. So if you want to play an AoE team, okay, there's actually not that much options for an AoE team, but just something to take note of. So okay, now let's go back to the actual team building. So first off, I'm gonna start with Mythical, and Mythical is probably gonna play more of a tank push kind of role. So these three are the cores, and beyond that, depends if you want to mix in some other stuff. If you want to play pure Mythical, you could probably go something like this. Your last option could be Gospel, I guess, since you're playing Yulia. The last slot could be any of the other healers or supports, but Mythical team would probably look like this, a tank push with Juggler. Or if you want to play a secondary tank, like maybe Ledin, then you sub out either Zerida or Yulia for another healer. Yeah, it will roughly look like this. I think it's a pretty stable tank push team. And okay, after this, let's look at options for Glory. Glory team, those two would be the buffers, and could run maybe kind of mage team like this, or healers, maybe even, oh, actually nah, not AoE team, maybe CC White. The healer slots are pretty flexible, like just now I would introduce the 6 healers. It depends on what utility you want for your team. Glory team would probably look like this. Could probably fit in a Nam somewhere if you want. Nam can actually bring sprint. He's okay in terms of disabling tanks if you can ban out their healers maybe, because she has the mobility down talent. And okay, moving on. Let's see. Princess team. Princess team, it depends if you want to play with a tank. So if you play with a tank, it will be these three. Probably Yulia. Yeah, Yulia's a pretty big unit. Fits into 3 factions. And Princess team. Okay, actually, you know what? It's easier to look through here. Princess team. So there's there's like 3 healers in Princess, if you think faction buff for healers is what you want. Angelina's more of a support / AoE unit. She can do quite a bit. She can push to disrupt their formation, or she can use alternate to help position your ally units. So okay, my personal opinion is that if you're playing Princess, you probably don't want to be playing tank push. It's not that great. If I were playing a Princess team, I would play an aggressive AoE box. Should probably be something like this. Let's see, what else do we have? Maybe, okay, in terms of pure Princess, these 5 would be the ones you bring. And the other options could be Juggler as an off tank and aggressive AoE damage. Could be Rainforce, pretty tanky and brings the most debuff to the table in terms of AoE units that we have here. Almeida's okay, since you have Luna, can help push her up a bit, because her mobility is pretty low. And yeah, you kind of just mix and match like what DPS and what supports you want. Beyond that, okay, so that's basically princess lineups. So last we have Meteor, which would probably be something like, okay, Meteor is basically what I was running or planning to run because I haven't actually started playing it. This is a Meteor Elis hybrid kind of lineup. It's a very aggressive team, and you can, okay, in terms of aggressive, you can either try to break the tank with Imelda and Brenda, or you can try to slowly eat through their backline with Derrida and Weiler. The rest are kind of support. Claret can disable the tank. Angelina is for positioning. And Sigma is just decent DPS that rounds everything up. Because Sigma doesn't have his SP class, you actually kind of have the freedom to run his faction buff if you want. Because you don't really need to bring his 3C. And yeah, that's about it actually. I could kind of go through the individual units and what they do, but this video is already getting a bit long, 11 minutes. So I think I'll just wrap it up here. Thank you for watching and hope this guide was helpful. And I'll see you in the next one.